I know she will bring to the demands of her new role the steadfast devotion to duty on which I have come to rely so much.
Real-life families and, actually what's going on in the community, and it must be really challenging for you.
What if the moment that changed Britain didn't happen on a balcony or in a grand coronation? What if it unfolded in whispers, sideways glances, and one crown placed gently on the wrong head at the right time? And what if the real power of the monarchy didn't shift with ceremony at all, but with one blessing delivered in an abbey full of people who didn't quite realise history was already happening? All right, buckle in, because this one isn't just about gossip or scandal. It's about a royal plot twist so quiet you could almost miss it if you blinked, and so significant it may have already rewritten who leads the crown. Royal watchers, scandal trackers, and Commonwealth crowd included, you're going to want to stick around for this. And hey, while we're diving into this royal mystery, feel free to like the video, tap subscribe, and drop your theories in the comments below. This story thrives on speculation, and I'm genuinely curious what side you land on by the end. Across Britain, the atmosphere was taut enough to hum. Even the weather felt like it was waiting for someone to make a move. Then William and Catherine appeared, not as heirs waiting their turn, but as king and queen in everything but title. Crowds didn't know whether to cheer, hold their breath, or ask if they'd missed a BBC special announcing a surprise succession. The whispers started instantly. King Charles's health, palace strategy, royal duty, and, my personal favourite, constitutional reset. Classic British understatement there. Nothing about that moment was loud, but everything about it carried weight. Inside Westminster Abbey, under the same vaulted stone that witnessed Charles's own coronation just 2 years earlier, the Archbishop offered a blessing that didn't feel like a benediction. It felt like a handing over of keys. No flourish, no proclamation, just a tone that said, "It's time." And then came the image. Princess Anne, ever the unsentimental patron saint of duty, stepping out of the wings with a newly commissioned Queen Consort's crown, Burmese rubies, sapphires, diamonds from Elizabeth II's private trove, the kind of quiet heritage flex only the Windsors can pull off. 2 versions of that crown exist, because of course they do. One sits locked away for state occasions, the other, lighter, made for moments exactly like the one nobody expected to become historic. Catherine wore that lighter crown for less than 10 minutes, but ask anyone who saw it, live stream, photo still, or grainy clip on Twitter, and they'll tell you the same thing. 10 minutes was enough. Not acceptance, not ceremony, burden. On the walkabout afterward, Windsor looked less like a tourist site and more like a country auditioning for its future. People handing notes, kids holding flowers, a veteran leaning forward to bless the new queen, only for Catherine to correct him with a quiet, "God bless the king." Ah yes, humility with a side of dynastic loyalty. Now, the palace insists loudly, but this wasn't a regency. The official term is co-stewardship, which sounds like something out of a BBC documentary about medieval councils, but fine. What it actually means, Charles keeps the throne, William and Catherine run the ship. Charles rested at Sandringham under medical supervision. Queen Camilla, conspicuously absent, retreated to Ray Mill for private reflection, a phrase royal aides only use when things are definitely not fine. And the public? Oh, they loved it. 84% approval overnight. Social media lit up with fan art, edits, memes, and hashtags about duty restored. International outlets crowned Catherine the monarchy's moral compass before the palace had time to deny it. But the real shift was inside Buckingham Palace. Those breadcrumb photos of Princess Anne presenting the crown weren't just aesthetic. Staff were analysing them like Cold War analysts reading satellite imagery. Press units that used to answer to Buckingham and Clarence House suddenly took orders from Kensington Palace. William chaired briefings, Catherine hosted diplomats. Anne moved between rooms like the monarchy's steel spine. Camilla was, well, elsewhere. By week's end, historians were openly whispering the phrase dual monarchy, and not purely as a metaphor. And if you're still with me, yes, absolutely drop your theories in the comments. Is this a strategic soft transfer, a Charles-approved baton pass, or a succession by stealth guided by Princess Anne herself? Because Anne, bless her, did not show up to do sentiment. When Charles hesitated, she told him plainly, "You can rest, they're ready." That line travelled through palace corridors faster than press releases ever could. Meanwhile, Catherine didn't wait for titles to change. She simply assumed direction. Kids' hospice visits with no cameras, diplomatic luncheons with Commonwealth youth, long chats about education and opportunity, no jewels, no pomp, no fuss. The sort of leadership Elizabeth II perfected, slow, steady, and made for staying power. The crown, as Anne likes to remind everyone, is a relay, not an inheritance. Weeks later, the Commonwealth Youth Forum arrived, the first major royal event chaired entirely by Catherine. No robes, no fanfare, just a simple ivory suit, the smaller crown glinting under the lights like it had been waiting its whole life for subtlety. Anne stood beside her as Charles's proxy. Camilla visited a literacy charity the same day, a move that might have landed differently 6 months earlier, but was swallowed whole by the forum's global attention. Here's where things get really interesting. Diplomatic briefings labelled Catherine, Her Majesty the Queen Consort Designate. That's not fan fiction, that's paperwork. Paperwork Charles would have seen, paperwork the Privy Council would have approved. That's when it stopped being metaphorical. That's when even the skeptics started to go, "Oh, it's happening." But the twist that stuck with me wasn't protocol, it was Camilla. While Catherine was being elevated by momentum, Camilla faded not through scandal or failure, just through irrelevance. Renewal arrived, and like she herself said, renewal doesn't ask permission. Royal power is a weird currency. You don't lose it when someone takes it, you lose it when someone stops looking at you. Christmas sealed the shift. Crowds gathered in the cold, hoping to glimpse William, Catherine, George, Charlotte and Louis. When they appeared, cheers, flowers, notes. One woman whispering that Catherine already carried the crown without needing to wear it. At Sandringham, Charles watched from indoors, turning to Anne with a line that felt like benediction. "My mother would have approved." Anne answered without pausing, "Then so do I." Outside, snow fell. Inside, succession settled, not by abdication or decree, but by acceptance. Look, whether you're pro-monarchy, anti-monarchy, or just here for the drama, you have to admit this was one of the smoothest power shifts in modern royal history. Not staged, not leaked, not forced, just understood. So what actually sparked it? Duty? Destiny, strategy, or just the simple fact that the country decided who felt like the crown before the institution did? Personally, I think Anne said it best. The crown doesn't wait for comfort, only courage. But I'll throw it back to you. Was this transition inevitable or orchestrated? Did Camilla gracefully bow out or get pushed to the edges? And is Charles quietly writing his final chapter, or is this just the prologue of William and Catherine's reign? Tell me in the comments. I genuinely want to hear where you stand. If you enjoyed this dive into the royal chessboard, hit like, subscribe for more, and share it with someone who follows the monarchy like it's the Premier League. Thanks for spending time with me on this one. It was a wild story to unpack. More soon.